the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
She was told that she couldn't play with the boys. She was told that they were too big, too rough, too strong. She was told to give up her dreams and move on. She was told to just be pretty, be quiet, be a lady. She was told that women had to stay on their side of the court, stay in your lane. Playing and competing with men was insane. She was told that men and women would never be equal. Dreaming like that would only be linked to your mind, to your soul. She never listened. She knew that their thinking was old. She was magic. She is the definition of spirit. She is what champions are made of. She is now.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Harlem Masterclass. Today, we are so excited to have with us Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse. Dr. Woodhouse is recognized as one of the leading financial advisors in the country, an entrepreneur, certified financial planner, registered securities broker, and tax consultant. She is ranked as one of the top 1% of fully licensed insurance and investment brokers in America. Let me back up. She is ranked in the top 1% of fully licensed insurance and investment brokers in America. She has been a trailblazer in the strategy and solutions business for over 2 decades. In 1983, Dr. Woodhouse became one of the first African-American women to work on Wall Street as a full-service broker. After her highly successful 14-year career in trading, she retired from Wall Street to pursue a variety of other entrepreneurial ventures. In honor of her distinguished 40-year career in the financial service industry, the World Conference of Mayors awarded her with the Wall Street Pioneer Award. Sometimes I'm going to back up and just say this one more time. The World Conference of Mayors awarded her with the Wall Street Pioneer Award in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 2021. And in 2022, she was recognized as the prestigious African Leadership Awards for being the best female manager in the financial firm. Dr. Woodhouse has served the needs of individuals and families for more than half of her life. In 2011, she launched a literacy campaign in New York that continues to teach people monetary concepts that work. The Wealth Wave Company has given her a national platform to extend that mission. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse.
Well, greetings, and thank you so much for that wonderful intro. And Katrina, and definitely thank you to the Harlem Arts Alliance, and also, of course, to New Heritage Theater. I have my heart and soul in seeing what I can do to bring financial literacy to my community And my community is extended across this country, the
Yeah.
United States, bringing financial literacy to Black and brown people because, of course, in the time frame of our country, it seems like we happen to be the community that gets left behind. So today I'm going to talk about my favorite community, the township of Harlem.
Yes.
And I want to share with you, and I hope you can feel my passion through this camera because it is time for a change. We are embarking upon a new year, 2025, and in that, there's a lot of things that we have to be responsible for to make a difference if we want things to change. So, I'm going to talk a little bit. I'd like to give you a little history
Yes.
and a little information about the village of Harlem and the villages like Harlem across this country. The village of Harlem is the Black Mecca and cultural capital of the world. I know this to be true because when I went to Egypt, I had a Harlem hat
Ha! They
and
knew
I
where you
could have
was
made a
from,
lot of
weren't they?
money on
Yes.
that hat because people were like, "You're from Harlem?" You know, they understood the power of just knowing what this cultural capital is all about. And that means during the Renaissance period, that's the 20s and 30s,
Yep.
we were not only good with music, dance, but we were also with the arts, but more so, we were also self sufficient in our community.
Yes.
So sufficient that we were able to suffice, just like in Black Wall Street in 1921, when it was destroyed, there was 600 businesses that were self-sufficient. Same thing in the village of Harlem. We had stores, mom and pop stores, which meant that when we wanted something, we didn't have to go outside of our area to make it happen, to get what we wanted. Everything was right there. When we wanted entertainment, we got entertainment in our area. First, it started years back that sometimes we couldn't even get into the same venues, but things changed. And as they did, we were able to be self sufficient.
Yes.
Well, here we are. And little that you may know also, got to add this in, is that there was just not the Black Wall Street in Tulsa. There's 127 Black Wall Streets that existed in the 20s. And that was because, again, we were not allowed in many ways to go to different stores, like restaurants, villages, and townships. So we didn't stop there. That's what you call our ancestry. They had fortitude. And what that meant is that, and so you don't want me to come, you don't want to use my money? No problem. I'll keep it in my own community.
Mm-hmm.
That was the power. And that was the power that we saw as I looked in history about the Renaissance era. That was a time when we wore our finery. We
Mm.
looked good and we guided the whole elements of what people should be, the fashion industry. So every area we had something that we participated in. And now, fast forward, we do the same thing in many ways. People come to Harlem to get the flavor of what's going on. But things have changed a little bit with something that word gentrification. And therefore things are changing culturally. And it shouldn't. But if it's to be, it's up to we. So the question is that if Harlem has all of this striving culture and businesses, what's going on? What has led us to come down to the situation of where we get counted at the bottom of the economic chain?
Mm-hmm.
What is going on? And one of the reasons why things are happening is because we're lacking in one of the most potential and powerful thing that we have, which is financial literacy.
Yeah.
Now, the United States itself ranks 14 in financial literacy, so it's really not at the top of the chain, even though the United States is supposed to be, and especially New York is supposed to be the financial capital of the world. But that's not
Right.
what's happening in today's world today because there's a break. And
Ladies
what's
and
the break is
gentlemen,
that
I hope they
we are
have their
not
pens.
financially literate. It is not taught in schools. It's not taught at work. It's not taught at the dinner table. So, therefore, no one is able to really learn, which means it impedes our generational wealth. Why? Because if we don't make sure that the generations are have something to start with, and then we turn around and say, well, too bad, it's for me, and that's all once I get mine, I'm done. We got to change our mindset. We've got to understand that it is so important that we learn how money works. I think it sounds so simple, but it's a lot to it.
How money works.
So I want to talk about a little bit about how much money really comes through our community. It is almost over 17 trillion dollars goes through all of our black communities, black and brown communities in this country. I did say trillion, you all did catch that
17
T.
trillion. I'm just going to jump in. I hope
If we
everyone is taking notes
if
and
we
recording.
own if we oh, 1 second. Okay, we got a little bit of yes. Hello. Hi, Katrina.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you said something?
I just wanted to make sure that we did a proper handoff because you jumped right in. And so they got so much information already. The master class has officially started. I hope folks got pens, papers, taking notes because she already dropped some gems. So we're going to give you full stage, knock it out
Okay.
the park. I am excited. Thank you for the information. And by the way, y'all, she said we have amongst us $17 trillion. Now let's think about what we're going to do with all that power. Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse, take it away.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I am so excited because I got a time frame, so I was making sure I got everything that I could possibly give on this. But thank you so much. And I want to know, they said that I need to. Okay, so as I said before, $17 trillion in black and brown communities. What's going on? The question comes, why are we not at the top? When 17 trillion, let me give you an idea. The country of Spain spends about $17 trillion every year. Okay, so we're like a country on our own, just in our power of our dollar. But are we using it? One of the things that I will be speaking about is about the entrepreneurship. See, what happened is back in the days, as we got towards the 60s, we fought for our rights for equality. The thing is that we started and were given many a times civil service jobs. Nothing wrong with it. Please don't hold me against it. But civil service jobs, we arrived, and our businesses started to weaken. Why? Because being a business owner takes a lot of work. It's not just showing up from 9 to 5. It is about being a part of the community and cultivating the community and building upon the community and giving back to the community. As one of the things I always say is my dad told me, it is when I was 8 years old, he said, he who writes the check is free. That means that you have to have a financial base. And if someone gives you a salary, well, they also control where you vacation, where you live, what you eat. Sometimes, I hate to say it this way, but salaries sometimes sound like slavery because they control. Now, again, there's always place for the worker bee, but the key is that in our communities right now, that 17 trillion that goes through communities across this country needs to start to circulate and come back into our community. And it can't do that if we don't have the businesses that it goes through. So the key to finance And yes, I've been in the financial service industry for multiple years, over 40 years. And in really examining what's going on in this country as far as us in finance, we have a tendency when we see the word finance, math, well, especially on the TV, what do? Click. We want to move and change to another channel. Not interested. We got to stop that. We got to get into the mindset of how money works and how important it is for us to grow and build our communities. Why? Because we sure do know how to make it. And we definitely know how to spend it. The question is, do we know how to make that money work for us? That is the key to financial freedom. And that's what we're going to do a little talking about, how to get ourselves together. One of the things that's known is if you have a plan, then you're not planning to fail. But if you don't have a plan, you're basically saying, I'm going to fail. And the key, which I have to apologize for the financial service industry, most of the time the financial service industry does not want to speak to us in our communities. I remember when I got to Wall Street, because I got there because I had bought my tax business when I was 19 years old. And I thank Mr. Henderson, who was my high school teacher, who sold me his business. And I was an apprentice in that business. You see, you hear these words, apprentice. So therefore, I was learning how to be a businesswoman. And then I realized that was in the early 80s, and I wanted my clients to get the investment advice. But I found out that I would send them out to get tax-free bonds and investments that would be conducive to them. But I found out that they would come back and they said that people said they didn't qualify. And I didn't understand why. It wasn't little tiny money. It was a decent amount, 100,000. Sometimes it was 60,000, 50. But still, why were they being turned around? Because the world of finance would service, and even to today's world, they're servicing individuals who make $100,000 and have at least $500,000 to invest. That is not necessarily what's in my community. So I went to Wall Street. I found the information. I shared it. And many a times I got called the mercenary broker because I didn't stick to the traditional investment person. I did what was needed, was to help my community grow. In that, to today's world, fast forward 40 years from then, I get to see people who have sent their kids to college. They have retired. They've built their homes, or they have traveled through the world. They're retiring now. This is what makes the difference when we have financial literacy and we have financial people who will help us. So back to this financial literacy. How do we combat it? How do the illiteracy, how do we combat that? How do we make a difference in our community? Well, we have to first, of course, get the mindset. We have to change our minds to understanding that we come from kings and queens, from great ancient Kemet. We have the rights to become wealthy. Now the thing is, how do we make it so that we understand how money works? Well, there's a few things that we have to do. And just like what I do is I provide a financial literacy seminars periodically. I have a schedule that we're putting together so you can easily reach out to my office and be able to get the information of when we're giving these financial literacy seminars. It's and then I'm sure they're going to put up the number. It's 646-375-2121. But in that, you have that right. Also, to get some financial literacy, we have the How Money Works book. Okay, the How Money Works book Stop being a sucker. Okay, I know those are fighting words, but it's necessary. Sometimes you got to hit you in the gut to make you move, because knowledge is power, but action is the solution and freedom. And so if you like the book, you can also reach out to my office and we'll be glad to say it's a physical book. So you're going to have to give up your address. Okay. But these are the things that are important. And of course, once you get the book, you got to read the book. Why? Because it'll give you the foundations to how money works. And the reason why we have Stop Being a Sucker, okay, it's a cute little story, is that when you used to walk in the bank since 2012, you'd walk into the bank and you look to the left, you look to the right, and what do you see at the teller? You see candy usually. Well, for the longest before we started with this book was that you had these little suckers that were there and they were dum-dums. You think they were trying to tell us something? Well, that same company that makes Dum Dums happened to make another candy called Smarties. So if they really wanted us to think that we were smart, they would have given us those, don't you think? But to carry on, just so that, because our time is limited, financial education should be our passion. It's for us to take it not just to the level of we knowing, but to do it to generation and generations. Because if you know better, you wind up doing better. And that's important. So what's the next step? We call these some of the 7 money milestones, the things that you have to do to become financially astute and financially free. The next is proper protection. And we must have the proper protection, meaning, I'm going to say this word, insurance. Now, we have car insurance and house insurance. Why? Because they make us. Okay, we can't have or drive or have our mortgages if we don't have those type of insurances. But what about the other insurances? You know, Anthony Anderson said it so well when he, during Life Insurance Awareness Month, when he was the representative, and he said, isn't it amazing that we will insure the flat screen TV that we watch at home, but not the person who created it and bought it? Well, we need to protect our family. We need to protect our income when a breadwinner has passed on. So what do we do at that point? We must make sure that there's proper insurance. Now, I'm going to say something that I really truly believe. If we had everyone in our community insured, you know, I really believe the highest lobbied agency in this country happens to be next to the medical insurances, medical industry, is the insurance industry. If that insurance industry realized that we were all insured and all covered, we might not see all this treachery going on in our community as people being murdered. That's my belief. Okay, but proper insurance. It also stops the problem when, you know, in our community what can happen when someone passes. We got to pass the hat, you know, or a GoFundMe account. It'll stop that. And it'll also put us to the point that we can build a legacy for the next generation. That's generational wealth is so necessary. We also, next one, I'm going to cover these kind of fast, and then because I want to leave a little section for some questions and answers at the end if possible. But we also have the emergency fund. An emergency fund is necessary so it does just what it says in case of an emergency. We should have at least, well, they say 3 to 6 months worth of money put away, but the reality is no, it should be at least 6 months to a year. As we found out through COVID, that during that period of time, it took almost a year for folks to get back on their feet. And I'm thankful to my clients who listened to me, because that's where they were. They were able to get back on their feet with that emergency fund. Now, some people will say, it's not easy to save. Well, I tell everyone we have to have fun saving. So there's a little things that I do. I tell folks you can save $1 for every week in the year. So we're just now embarking upon January, The first week of the year, save $1. The second week, save $2. Next week, $3. Before you know it, by the end of the year, you have saved at least $1,372. Some people will say, well, Jana, that's not a lot. Yeah, but if you do it 10 times, that's 13,000. And to think about it, it's better to do something than nothing. You know how many of us have put money in those those big water jars, and then at the end we got to pay somebody to either count it or a machine that's going to take at least 1% of what we've put away. So we could do that, or we could get the kids ready and get them to roll them up. But the key is to do something. Have some fun saving. And it's just like Grandma used to say, if you say got $1, 25 cents should go away to the side for a rainy day. That's your emergency fund. Then we have debt. Now, all of y'all during these seasons, these holidays, which are holidays, not holla months, but holidays, especially we just had Christmas, is a serious time that instead of doing something for someone, we go out and buy. Then we wind up getting in debt. And debt is important to address. Debt is a hard thing to get out of if you don't have someone to help you. And so there's knowing what the interest rate is that you're paying out here. It's also knowing how much you need to pay above the minimum. You know, a lot of times I've got to give the credit to President Obama, who said it, is that on every credit card statement, it's important that we list what the minimum is, and then also list what is it that you can pay a little bit more so you can get out of debt quicker. But even better is to sit with a financial advisor and to have that accountability. Why? Because if you have to come every 6 months and sit in front of one of us, you might just stick to the plan. That's what's so important. Then we have cash flow. Let me talk about cash flow. Cash flow is really our budget, how much money we make, and how much we spend. But in addition to that, it is really about entrepreneurship also. Because many a times, as I said, when it comes down to our jobs, I call them journey of the broke, because we just make just enough. So we do just enough work to get paid just enough so that we can just do a little bit. But how about if we can do more and get more? Well, that's when we do more. And what is that? Like right now they've given a name to it called the gig economy. People are gigging. Do you realize a woman made $60,000 off of hugging? That's how void we are of human touch. But it's something to think about. And no, she really did do hugging. They had her on 60 Minutes. It's a real deal, okay? But the thing is, in addition to it, there's other things. People walk dogs, water plants, do all sorts of things, have a side job, gigging. But also think about the power of entrepreneurship, making sure that you're positioned properly to gain financial freedom. Now, in our communities, I got to say, there's so many people who attack our community about what? These get-rich-quick schemes. This is how fast money goes fast, okay? Slow and steady wins the race, and that's how you make a difference for yourself. You know, we are just truly, just for the void and lack of education in finance, we are losing our money, our buying power, which is called inflation. You know, when you get to the store and you got $20, a few years ago, you got some change. Today, they ask you for more money. So that's our buying power. That's what you hear about inflation all the time on the news. Inflation, supposedly it's going down, but you know what? I know when you get to the grocery store, you're not feeling it, you know, especially if they ever go back to $7 for a dozen eggs. Well, that'll turn a lot of people into vegetarians because that's an expense. But the key is that in this lesson is to know that you have the power. And God gave you certain talents when you came into this world. And those talents need to be used. It's just finding how you're going to get paid for it. Why I say that? I remember a marketing professor in my school years ago said that if you're going for your MBA, he says, how many people think they're going to get a better job? And at that time, I didn't raise my hand. Why? Because I happened to have owned a business at that time, my tax business. But he says, if you raised your hand, you might as well leave. Because if you're going to be a master, mind that word, a master. If you're going to be a master, then you need to be creating jobs, not looking for one. Anybody ever tell you that? If no one tells you, you don't think about it that way. So that's what I see is that in our village of Harlem, where we're lacking, we're missing the entrepreneurs, the mom and pop stores. We need them again. And then when we go to them, we need to not look for the deal of the week, okay? We need to pay them. Now, entrepreneurs, I will say to you, store owners, when people come in with their money, you need to learn to do this. Smile. Welcome them. Our village needs to grow, but it can't grow if all these big businesses are coming into it and taking out the money out of the community. We need to change that and change our mindset and teach our children entrepreneurship. What does that mean? What do you do when you own your own business? A man who owns his own business walks a different way. Yeah, I know some of y'all saying, yeah, and he tired too. But you know what? It's the financial freedom that you get. The fact that you can do what you have to do when you need to do it. You know, my mother, when she got sick, she was here in the home, and I was able to stop everything and be with her. Why? Because I owned my own business and I had people who were working with me to help me to take that time off. You can't do that all the time when you're working at a job, but you can do it when you have your plan put together in case of emergencies and to be able to take care of your family and participate in your family's life. Okay, so now the next level is we've got to build wealth. We got to put away money. And because of what's happening in this economy right now, we really have to look at putting away money for our future, for our retirement. Yes, we're going to live longer. You know, there was a National Geographic magazine that came out, and it said this baby had cute babies on it, different nationalities. Said these babies will probably live to be 120. My question is, how are they going to be living, and how comfortable are they going to live? If we don't put away something for these children, do you realize that if you put away as simple as $100 a month for a child, by the time they reach 67, if the interest rates are working properly, that is $1 million baby. Every child, if we would just put away that money, or when they have their birthdays, they get to keep half and the other half goes into their future. These are the things that we can do for our families. But see, the key is education. Why? Because we have to teach these children what to do so they won't go and spend it all in one fell swoop. You know, these things have to be targeted and planned. But if you teach them, they will do. If you know, then you pass it on. And if you don't know, seek out a financial advisor and financial courses to assist you in knowing how money works and making a difference and protecting that whole element of financial projections or financial stability, making sure that you know what to do in case of an emergency, you know what to do in case of your retirement. You know, we do a lot of planning, you know, and if we do a lot of planning on everything else, like birthdays, weddings, we spend months planning on a wedding. How about spending time planning for your future and your existence on this planet? What are you going to do? So many people wind up retiring. Why? Because it's time to go. That's what they say. But then they go and get another job. Well, something's wrong with that, because when you retire, I tell folks I'm not retiring. And they say, why? I said, because I'm not tired of what I do. I love what I do. So if you love what you do, why are you leaving it? I wouldn't be. So that's the same thing that happens to folks if they don't like their job, then find out what you were put on this planet to do and then be about it, learn about it. And then, as my financial professor told me, he said, well, once you've learned what you want to do in this world and where there's a void, if there's something you can fulfill, well, be about that and then find out how people are going to pay you for it. This way, you find your passion. Those are the things that you have to do to build wealth, putting away those coins, building, having a focus, have a plan so that you're not planning to fail. Okay, the other thing is, which is very near and dear to me, is protecting your wealth, putting together the things so that families don't break up. Do you know it's phenomenal how families, when there's a death in our community, somehow the people show up. Okay, I know what you mean. They show up and then they want to know what they're getting. But if you haven't done a will, if you haven't put together a health directive, if you haven't died, you want to know whether what to do next. If you haven't gotten your affairs together, I think it's the most cruelest thing, because at that time families are broken up behind it. They're separated behind the arguing. And sometimes in the case of, y'all remember Aretha Franklin and Prince? You realize that Aretha, she died during COVID. It was a hard thing. And her family battled. There was 4 wills that they found, handwritten. And ultimately, by the time they settled her estate after COVID, her $80 million estate had dwindled down to $40 million. Now, some will say, well, 40 million is not that bad. It is when you have worked and given your blood, sweat, and tears, and then ultimately it turns around that lawyers and courts get a hold of it. You don't need to do that. You don't work for that. You need to have your own directives set up, and those are things called a financial power of attorney while you're alive, your health directive. These are the things that are important, and it is important to talk to a financial advisor and attorneys to help you to get to those levels. See, if we built, just like in the village of Harlem, there were so many people who took advantage of the dollar brownstones. Y'all remember that? There were brownstones that you had to fix up and they gave you like 5 years to straighten it out. Well, a lot of people did it, but they didn't plan well enough, because the city and state of New York came back and started to try to charge more for real estate tax because of the improvements. And some lost it because either someone died who owned it and there was no directive. It went back to the state, or they couldn't afford to maintain. These are the things that we have to plan. If you have a plan, then you're not planning to fail. And that's what's important. And if you want a free financial analysis to know where you are and where you'd like to be, my office would be glad to provide it for you. We do that with no obligation. The reason why is because I know if you know better, you'll do better. And so all you have to do is contact our office and we'll be glad to service you. It is important that we take control economically of what's going on in our areas. We have to be responsible. No more looking for someone else to do something for us. It is important that we do for ourselves. And we can. Like I said, we know how to make the money. We definitely know how to spend the money. Yeah, I know every time I think about that $17 trillion. So therefore, why not make it so that not only do we make our money work for us, but also we have the ability to bring it to generation to generation to generation, taking it so that if, I'm just going to use the word Jim, if Jim makes saves $10,000, then Jim Jr. should be able to make that into $50,000. And Jim the third should be able to bring that into 100,000. Can we foresee that? Can we see that it's necessary for us to get to the level where we have self-preservation and then be able to, we have problems with renting here. Okay, so wouldn't it be wonderful if we had a two-family house that we could service either our family or someone else and be able to make money with the property that we have? These are all the things that we can honestly do for ourselves. And then, of course, get our legislators involved. Why? Because they're the ones that make the rules that create the taxes that we have to pay. But we also need to make sure that we get our tax situation in order. We don't want anybody taking anything away from us once we've built it. Because if you build it, they will come. And that means a difference in saying than what we had years ago when they said we build it, they will come. That meant that they were going to build the church. No, today they will come. The IRS and the state and stuff will come and get your property if you don't put things in order. It is so important. And I implore you all to get the book, the How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker book, but to really understand how money works. And as we're going through this, I'm coming close, I think, yet to the end of our session. But if there's anyone who has questions, please forward those in the chat so that I may have enough time to answer them. But the key is that in this world that we're living in right now, we need to take control of our finances. And again, we need to figure out how we're going to build our community. We know that gentrification took place, and that meant that there's certain areas that weren't funded. There were opportunity zones that could be right across the street from us in the village of Harlem and not get funded. It's okay. Wouldn't it be great if we can fund ourselves? You know, I think about when people have their funerals or they've passed on and then they go get a GoFundMe. Well, how about you fund you? Being able to fund the necessities that you need to help to build. Because once you've taken care of your needs, then you can deal with the community needs. This is what we did over the years. We are the first generation, the very first generation that is not doing better than the previous generations. And people say, well, how's that so? And I know a dear friend of mine, George Frazier, he brought it out. He says it's the lack of knowledge and the comfortability that we get into, the fact that we won't step ahead and take things into our hands. Well, I don't know if it's the fact that we won't take things and the power into our own hands. It's the doing. You know, some of these jobs have worn us out and we're tired, you know, but the key is we can't stop because we can't lose our villages, especially the Black Wall Streets that we have come from. The knowledge that we've had from our ancestors, we can't take that and put it away and forget about it. We have to be about building, and we need to take control of our own lives and to take control over our businesses. I know it's not an easy situation, but if we work together, we can get that done and we can make a difference. That's what I'm here for. I really believe that I came into this world to teach people about money. My mom used to tell me the story that, as a little girl, when little kids are doing ABCs, well, I wasn't an ABCer. I was a dime, quarter, nickel. I didn't like pennies, you know. And so it's about being able to build. And I always thought that learning how money works was so much important at a young age. And no, it wasn't my parents that taught me. It's just the thirst that I had for knowing what to do with money and then taking it to the next level, which was to help others to get to that stage. We are in a time right now that we need ownership. Many of people don't want to buy a home or buy a townhouse. Let me just talk to that for a quick moment because I'm hearing it a lot. They're saying, I don't want the responsibility. Well, think about it this way. If you are paying rent, you are now paying somebody else's mortgage. And 9 times out of 10, they don't look like you. Okay. So why wouldn't you take that same money and pay your own mortgage? And then if you do plan, how about putting something to the side so that you can pay for the plumber, the landscaper, budgeting for that instead. It's all about the change in the thought. They've said in days and times that what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's the thought. We've got to change our mind and know that, that old saying that they say, money is the root of all evil. Well, somebody came and got that so wrong. It's supposed to be the love of money and obsession of money is the root of all evil. But the using and understanding how it works, that's not evil. That's financial freedom. That's what's so important for us in today's world and in our communities to be able to make a difference and make changes. Now, I gave you a few different quick things about the milestones of what you should be paying attention to. And you don't have to do them all at the same time. You don't have to take them step by step. It's up to you what's comfortable. The key is do something. Make a difference, and together we can make a difference worldwide. We've shown the power when we come together. I just say to you, it is a time is now. And the time is to make a difference and a change. Now I'm going to take a little look to see if there's any questions or anyone has any comments, questions. I've been focused in on speaking so much. But my heart, I hope you feel, is really in it. Okay, it's saying if you have any questions, you can ask them in the chat. I do a show here on Soul City Network, and it is called Access Wealth Nation. And it is so important that we understand that we have the power to change this landscape of Harlem. And not just Harlem, but all the Harlem. Many people don't know how powerful Harlem is. And I just live across the bridge from it, but my heart is in Harlem. My dad, when he was alive, he managed 6 beauty shops in Harlem. And that was in addition to him being a butcher and a salesman and all that. Yeah, he had jobs, got jobs. Okay, got business. But the thing that focused for me is that what destroyed those businesses that he had was the taxes, because they were not the sales tax. Those things can destroy a business and close you up. So you got to make sure you be about your business and be about making things work. And don't be subjected to some of these get rich quick schemes. It's they come into our community and give us ideas. The key is balance, and be balanced in getting all of those things, those 7 money milestones that I spoke about, getting those things in order. Now, after you do all of that and you want to go ahead and get into some of these other programs and stuff, that's on you. But to make sure that your family and your generation to generation to generations are taken care of, that's what's important. That's what I believe. And I think that in addition to just getting it in order, you need to place it in trust. And that's another element that we need to learn about is how we transfer wealth. There are many people out here who are saying, like Warren Buffett says, he's never going to leave anything to his children. If you dig a little deeper, you'll find out there's a trust in there, and his daughter has the ability of getting the funds that way. So therefore, they just avoided something we call gift tax. This knowledge that I have didn't come overnight, but I'm truly engaged in giving this into our community, and so that we can do so much more and do better.
Thank
So I
you.
see I see my friend on the screen, Katrina.
Yes.
Hi, Katrina. I'm
Hi,
back. You're
hi,
back.
I am back. I had a question, and so I am going to add my question, and it is so my
Okay.
question is on the screen. Harlem's economic landscape has undergone significant changes. Can you describe the current economic situation in Harlem, and what are some pressing economic challenges and opportunities for our community?
Sure. Our current situation in Harlem is that we're being priced out. Unfortunately, um, there are, like I mentioned before, that the stores are coming into the Harlem community, and these are the big stores. But the mom and pop situations, the smaller stores are being priced out. Rent is too high. And so this is causing us not to be able to maintain our businesses, or to be able to buy. We have to go out. There's a lot of new stores that are coming in. We've got all these new stores. You got Trader Joe's, and you've got, these mega stores coming in. And it's not a problem, but the thing is that what about the corner stores? Where do they come in? So where we're at now with the economic situation of Harlem is that many of us are not qualified to be able to get loans or get assistance, and we have to put our affairs in order now for that. And it can be done. That's one of the things that, some people will be saying, this is going to be a lot of No, it can be done. We can make the difference. And it's just like if I have $1 and you got $2, we got three, we put them together. We've got to start to work on that level. But again, each household has to get their affairs in order. We have to, number one, know that we can do it. Number two, get the knowledge. And number three, be about getting it done.
Thank you. And are there any questions in the chat? Do we have any questions? So Daniel wants to know, how can I begin to build wealth for my family?
Mm, okay, that's good. True. What you do first, Daniel, is that I would implore you to sit with a financial advisor or
Can
a
you
financial educator. That's
I have
important,
feedback?
someone who knows, but
Turn,
write down
turn it down.
all of what you're doing. So if you have children, have you put money away for the child's education? Or not just the education. These kids are smart. So what we got now is that maybe we need to help to fund their next business endeavor. but also to write out where you're at. Do you have insurance? Do you have credit cards that need to be addressed? What are the interest rates that you have? The higher the interest, the more time it's going to take you to pay it off. There's a rule called the rule of 72. It's how your money doubles, and it also tells you how long it takes your debt to continue. The rule of 72 takes your interest rate into the number 72. See, all that time while we were in school, we thought that the division didn't matter. It does. Okay. And so if you divide 72, in the number of interest rate, into 72, it'll tell you how frequent your money doubles. So if you got a 1% interest rate, you divide it into 72, it'll take you 72 years for it to double. So if you have an interest rate on your debt of, let's say, 20% divided into 72, it'll take you about about 3 years. Every 3 years, that balance is going to double. You don't want that to happen. That's why it's so important to, can you recommend financial advisor in Queens? I most definitely can. Even though we're in the age of technology, my dear King. So, but in the bits, if you'd like to see someone face to face, yes, I do have some people I can recommend. Just call our office, 646-375-2121. And I can advise you or recommend someone. But I'd love to be able to hear your story.
I want to say thank you so much, Dr. Woodhouse. You are a powerhouse of information, and you made me laugh a few times too, so there's that. I hope that everyone enjoyed today's masterclass. You will be able to watch a replay because Miss Dr. Woodhouse dropped quite a few gems. So you might want to go back and listen again so that you can write some of this down and make sure that you actually execute it in your own life and in your business. Obviously, Harlem has been an economic hub for Black businesses, and we hope that some of the information that you gained here today will help you along your journey to success. Thank you again, Dr. Woodhouse.
And just one more statement. I just want to say you'll tune in every Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Soul City, and you get a chance to, I drop some gems because I tell you to get your checkup from the neck up.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Katrina, and definitely, to the Harlem Arts Alliance and to the New Heritage Theater. I do workshops also for artists because they get the money and then it goes away. So I like to make sure they keep it.
Absolutely. And shout out to New Heritage Theater Group celebrating 60 years of theater and service and productions in Harlem. Our next Harlem Masterclass is on January 2nd with the Angelo Ellerby, 2 p.m. We look forward to seeing you again on January 2nd. Good night, everyone.
She was told that she couldn't play with the boys. She was told that they were too big, too rough, too strong. She was told to give up her dreams and move on. She was told to just be pretty, be quiet, be a lady. She was told that women had to stay on their side of the court, stay in your lane. Playing and competing with men was insane. She was told that men and women would never be equal. Dreaming like that would only be lethal to your mind, to your soul. She never listened. She knew that their thinking was old. She is magic. She is the definition of spirit. She is what champions are made of. She is magic.